What is up, and welcome back to Demo Deep Dive. You are tuned into the Red Hat channel. We appreciate you being here. Feel free, if you're in the comment section, wherever you're streaming around the world, to let us know where you're calling in from. We've got a very exciting episode for you today, but a little bit of background if you haven't joined us on Demo Deep Dive. As the name implies, what we're trying to do with this specific series is we're trying to show you the ins and outs, the really technical stuff of Red Hat technology, from the open source projects like Kubernetes and Ansible and Linux, all the way down to some of the specific product features so that you are more aware and more informed when it comes to the world of open source, to the world of cloud native technology, of AI, of virtualization, and a lot of other topics. And if you want to join us as we go through this demo deep dive today, please feel free to head to interact.redhat.com, where we've put together this webpage of a lot of different demos and experiences that you can see that use open source technology and Red Hat products to solve problems when it comes to, for example, AI or application platforms or managing containers, automation, virtualization, all of these really cool topics for enterprises and just for geeks and developers like ourselves. Speaking of ourselves, I've got a great guest joining me today. We've got Diego, who is a technical marketing manager over on the OpenShift team, but he's going to be talking about a specific new feature called OpenShift Lightspeed, which really helps admins and developers. And so we're really excited to have you here. Diego, feel free to introduce yourself and say, for example, what's your favorite thing you've been working on recently?
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here in this show with you all. To have the opportunity to talk about OpenShift Lightspeed. About me, Diego Alvarez. I'm a technical marketing manager at Red Hat. I'm part of the hybrid platforms business unit. Nowadays, mainly working on OpenShift Lightspeed. I work on creating demos, running demos, writing blog posts, and also any kind of technical assets around OpenShift Lightspeed. And one of them is the interactive experience that we will be covering today. We have a lot of features in OpenShift Lightspeed that we will see live here. So yeah, really exciting.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you. And just a note for our viewers, before we actually hop into some of the technicalities of what the problem being solved here is with OpenShift Lightspeed and how it works and how you can try it out, please feel free to let us know if you have any questions as we go along through this. Diego here is one of our experts, but myself, I am not an expert in this space. And so I'll just have as many questions as you probably have. And so I'll try to ask some as we go along through this experience and this demo, but feel free to ask anything in the comment section below and we'll bring it up here so you can interact with us and, appreciate you guys all being here. So without further ado, welcome back to Demo Deep Dive, and Diego, take it away.
Okay, perfect. We are going to cover like a really quickly a walkthrough about OpenShift Lightspeed. So if you haven't heard about OpenShift Lightspeed is a virtual assistant for OpenShift. So this is not new to anyone. We have all been using AI chatbots in our day-to-day. So yeah, having one that is specifically built for OpenShift, that is integrated within the OpenShift Web Console, is fantastic because I use it a lot. It helps with troubleshooting issues in the cluster, asking about terminology in OpenShift, understanding procedures, how to steps, etc. So yeah, that's what we will cover today. So I know we don't have a lot of time, so maybe we can start with the walkthrough.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this starts as always in an OpenShift cluster. So here you can see in the bottom right corner that I have OpenShift Lightspeed installed. OpenShift Lightspeed is an operator. So if you have an OpenShift cluster, you can install this operator from the operator catalog. And when you click on this icon, the chat interface will appear. That's the one that we will use to interact and ask questions about OpenShift. So yeah, for example, maybe we can start with a really simple question. For example, imagine that I'm new to OpenShift. I understand what limit ranges are, namespaces, etc., but I want to create or generate some YAMLs for me. That's something that we can use OpenShift Lightspeed for. So yeah, for example, in this first question, I will ask, how do I define a limit range to enforce a maximum usage of 2 CPUs and 1 GB of memory? So that's cool. I want to see how to create those resources in my cluster. So I will send that question to OpenShift Lightspeed. So yeah, you can see here the OpenShift Lightspeed response. The reason or the way this is working is basically we have this operator connected to an LLM in the background. In this case, for this environment, I was using GPT-4 as a cloud provider, that model. Yeah, basically, OpenShift Lightspeed will take your query, will try to find the more relevant documentation that is related to that question. That documentation is embedded into the Lightspeed service. So yeah, once OpenShift Lightspeed finds that information, we'll send it everything to the model, and it's the model who is doing the response here. So yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
So yeah, so this is really cool because so let's think about OpenShift, right? So it's really powerful for managing the containers and virtual machines and AI models and pretty much every application workload. But you know, as an administrator or even as a developer, you know, deploying this because it's on Kubernetes is just it's all YAML, right?
yeah,
At the end of the day,
exactly.
infrastructure as code.
Yeah, exactly. It's an operator. You need to just set up the subscription, a channel, etc. And yeah, it works with any kind of OpenShift resources. So in this case, I'm creating limit ranges. As we will see later, we can attach different components, pods, alerts, anything that is running inside the cluster. OpenShift Lightspeed understands all those resources and will be able to provide a response.
Nice.
So
So instead of having to go through the menu options and select, hey, this specific, you know, pod needs this amount of GPU, and either you do that clicking or you do that via the command line. Now it's, hey, I want this done.
yeah,
Can you inspect my cluster and give me that information back with the model and help me do
yeah,
it?
exactly.
That's
That's
so
something that
cool.
we will see in the next
Oh,
part. But yeah, we will.
sorry.
No, that's fantastic because we will use OpenShift Lightspeed to troubleshooting issues. We will see how cluster interaction works to find that information inside my cluster. So yeah, that's something that we will see. And here we have the response. As you can see, the YAML was generated. We even have some information about the resources or the values that are included on that configuration. And OpenShift Lightspeed always provide the commands to create those resources. Interesting here, we have always access to the documentation that was used to compose the response. So this is the information that was found to support my query. And imagine that I want to learn more about this specific procedure. I want to learn more about limit ranges. I can always click this documentation. And so I go and find what I'm needing here. So yeah, we can use OpenShift Lightspeed for navigating the cluster, but also for looking for the relevant documentation for me. So yeah, that's really great. And here, the important part, yeah, you can see here like the resource was created with 2 CPUs and 1 GB memory. That's exactly what I specified. So yeah, let's clear the chat. And now we'll show you how we can use OpenShift Lightspeed to troubleshoot issues in the cluster. I have a pod in this environment that was pending. Let me navigate this cluster. There it is. So this is the pod that is in a pending state. We don't know what's happening, but we can ask. We always will have the chat interface on the right side of the screen. So I will open it. And now I will show you how we can attach those components that are failing or that we want to ask for. For example, OpenShift Lightspeed understands what resources you are looking at in the web console. And depending on that resource, you will be able to attach different things. Like, for example, here you can attach the full YAML configuration, a filter YAML that contains just the status, events, logs, etc. So that's the way we are allowing OpenShift Lightspeed to understand the configuration from those resources. So yeah, let's start by attaching the filter YAML. And I can ask, for example, can you tell me what is wrong with this pod? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, as you can see, we included the information for this configuration for this resource. And OpenShift Lightspeed suggests some changes. It has spotted an issue probably with the node selector. There you can see that it suggests us to check the labels in my node because the problem is related to that node selector. So that's a first step in the troubleshooting process. We can always keep asking more questions to find what's happening there.
So that's really cool. So just to recap what just happened, because that was really cool what just occurred. Because so I'm guessing, so we had the prompt, right? What's happening with the pod? when we include the YAML, did it also include like the pods of the log and the events and any other like activity to diagnose it, or how did that work?
No, in this case, as we will see here, we can select different things. In the previous example, we just attached the filter YAML, which just shows the status of the pod. And that's the reason why OpenShift Lightspeed understand that it was in a pending state, that there was a problem with the node selector. Now we will attach the full YAML configuration, so OpenShift Lightspeed can find the specific parameter that was causing the issue. But also we can attach logs, for example, or any other kind of component related to that resource. So yeah, I will show you how it works with the full YAML configuration. We know that it's related to the node selector. So now I will ask, can you tell me what nodes this pod should run on? And I will attach the full configuration for this pod. And as you can see, it's added as a context. And now let's see the response. Yeah, you can see there like the node selector specified in the configuration is worker, but there is a typo. The real name should be worker. So based on that configuration that we attached, now OpenShift Lightspeed is able to suggest some of the changes that we need to make. So in order to resolve this issue, what you will need to do is change the node selector to worker, and it will be able to run in your cluster. So yeah, this is just an example, but you can attach anything and find any issues in your cluster.
That's awesome. And so speaking of like attaching this context, we've got a question from one of our attendees here on the YouTube side. Thanks for joining, guys, by the way. Full YAML versus filtered YAML when you're trying to attach and diagnose. What's the difference?
Okay, so it will depend on the issue you want to troubleshoot. I always start with the filter YAML because sometimes that's enough for OpenShift Lightspeed to understand what's happening. But if you see that maybe the solution is not complete, you want to keep troubleshooting further, you can even complement it with more resources. Like the full YAML will provide more context. If you attach more logs or events, it will provide even more. So it will depend. If OpenShift Lightspeed is able to respond with just the status, that's fine. If you want to keep troubleshooting because that's not enough, you can always attach more information. Keep in mind that when we are attaching components, we are sending it as a context, and that means tokens that are sent to the LLM. So yeah, also if you want to keep in mind like saving costs, etc., you are concerned about the token you are using, that's another way of limiting how many of them are used.
Awesome. That's cool. And then one follow-up here. When we've figured out and diagnosed what's going on with the workload, is the full YAML where we edit or change the config, or is it the filtered YAML?
No, OpenShift Lightspeed will suggest you to run specific commands. Sometimes it will provide the commands to modify the full YAML, but OpenShift Lightspeed is not modifying anything. So right now, OpenShift Lightspeed just provides you all the steps you need to follow to solve that issue. In the future, we also would like to OpenShift Lightspeed to be able to modify, create resources in the cluster for you. But at this point, it is just about documentation, about helping with navigating the cluster, solving issues, but you are the one responsible for modifying the resources in the cluster.
I mean, I think that's good, though. I think we need human in the loop for some of this, because you don't want your AI assistant to go off and maybe scale down to 0 and you have no more application running. So
yeah, especially if you're in production, that's something you don't want.
Exactly. Cool. Thank you for helping answer those questions, and appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, and that's how we can use OpenShift Lightspeed for troubleshooting issues. Now I will show you another way of troubleshooting in the cluster. I will skip this part. You can even upload your own YAML file from your computer, and you can ask OpenShift Lightspeed to generate or to change, modify any parameters there to create, for example, a service, a route based on that deployment, etc. So yeah, this is all documented. I will encourage you to play with it a little bit if you want to learn more. But I wanted to show you how we can use OpenShift Lightspeed with the latest feature that were included in 1.0. So in order to show you how it works, I will show you the OLS config. This custom resource is where the configuration is stored for OpenShift Lightspeed. So yeah, you can see here we have this flag introspection enabled. So when we set this to true, OpenShift Lightspeed will deploy in the background an MCP server with different tools, and the model will be able to use those tools to gather information from resources in the cluster. So you don't need to worry about the configuration of this MCP server. It's already configured to talk to the OpenShift API, and it's the model who decides what tools will be using to find the information you are asking for. So that's cluster interaction. And also we have another feature in text preview that is bring your own knowledge. So basically, for some organizations that have been using OpenShift for a long time, they have probably developed their own policies, procedures when they work with OpenShift. So we also want OpenShift Lightspeed to be able to provide those responses instead of the official OpenShift documentation. So that's what we have here. I have an image. This image I created contains my custom knowledge for OpenShift. So what we are doing with this is adding a second vector database. So OpenShift Lightspeed understands about OpenShift, but also the procedures that apply for my company. And yeah, that's something that I will show you in a second.
Very cool.
Yeah, let's start with bring your knowledge. So for example, I will ask about horizontal pod autoscalers. That's something that is found in documentation, but in my company, we have a specific procedure for working with horizontal pod autoscaler. So I will ask about them. How do I use a pod autoscaler at Acme Corp? That's the name of my company. And there you can see the response that OpenShift Lightspeed provides. Of course, this is not in the official OpenShift documentation. This is the information coming from my custom knowledge that I added. So yeah, Acme Corp, you cannot directly use horizontal pod autoscalers. You will need to file an IT ticket. You will need to use some kind of metrics, monitoring, etc. So yeah, that's good because that's the way we are preventing users to get the default response when they have a specific policy procedure, even in their companies or in their teams.
Right. So like I could maybe scrape the Confluence documentation for my organization, and this is, or like the, you know, the doc sheets of like, hey, this is how you deploy, put this into a container, and then just use
exactly.
that as rack.
Yeah, the way it works, basically, we are providing a container that you will need to run that will transform your documentation in Markdown, for example, into a vector database. And that vector database will be embedded into the OpenShift Lightspeed service. So yeah, the OpenShift Lightspeed service will always try to prioritize your own knowledge instead of providing the default OpenShift documentation. So yeah, is it you, the one who create that vector database with your own knowledge? All you need to do is point OpenShift Lightspeed to that knowledge so it can be used. So that's how it works.
That's awesome.
And now I will show you cluster interaction, the other feature that we enable in the OLS config and that we can use to troubleshoot issues in the cluster. So for example, I can ask something like, can you list the pods that are in a pending state in my cluster? And OpenShift Lightspeed will return the broken pod that we saw a couple of minutes ago. Also, we can ask, for example, are there any VMs that are in a pending state, for example? And OpenShift Lightspeed is able to find that information in the cluster. But also, I can use this to just list resources. For example, can you list the pods running in the OpenShift Lightspeed namespace? And here you can see that Lightspeed is using one of the tools that MCP server that is deployed provides. So in this case, OCGet, and that OCGet will talk to the OpenShift API, will find that information for me, and will send that information to the model. So we can always check what was collected. In this case, let's take a look here. This is the information collected. This is the information sent to the LLM, and the LLM used that information to compose a response here. So yeah, that's awesome. another way of using OpenShift Lightspeed for troubleshooting. For example, I can use, or maybe I can ask some follow-up question like, okay, show me now the logs for the last pod, the Postgres server log. And it will use another different tool to find that logs and to summarize what is happening there. So yeah, that's a really powerful feature, of course.
Right. So this is really cool. So for, developers, ops, admins, they're all able to pull in information from the cluster, right? Typically that would take, a decent amount of time to parse through the logs and the events manually, now use either a private or a hosted LLM
Yep.
to process that data and then give results back like this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's super helpful. This is great.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the model providers, there are two different ways that are supported right now. You can connect OpenShift Lightspeed to a cloud provider. Everything is documented, but we support Watson XAI, OpenAI, or Azure OpenAI. You can select the model that you prefer between the ones that those cloud providers support. But also you can connect OpenShift Lightspeed, for example, for disconnected environments. You can still use OpenShift Lightspeed as long as you have a model being served, for example, in Red Hat OpenShift AI or RHEL AI. You can just put your model there, start using model serving, for example. You will get an endpoint, and all you need to do is connecting your OpenShift Lightspeed instance to that endpoint, and you will be able to interact with the model easily.
Nice. And I'm assuming this is all so if I was to try this out, I would install the operator from the operator hub, and then I would configure that model provider in the custom resource definition that you showed earlier.
Yeah, exactly. You will need first a secret that contains your API keys. You will need to select the model that you want to use, the cloud provider or the RHEL AI OpenShift AI platform, and you will need to provide the URL to that model. So that's all you need regarding of the model. Once you have the connectivity established, you can start using OpenShift Lightspeed.
Awesome. Okay. And let me bring up. I'm going to share my screen here just for a second to share Lightspeed. Rohan in the studio, if you could bring it up. So OpenShift Lightspeed is also complemented by some other Lightspeeds, right? So you've got, I think, Ansible Lightspeed, which I've heard a lot of people using for automation, and then you've got OpenShift Lightspeed here. And so, what's the difference? When should I use either?
Yeah, I mean, this could be a little bit confusing because, well, we share the same name, but there are some difference. For example, the main one will be the platform where it runs. So basically, OpenShift Lightspeed runs on OpenShift. The documentation that is included in that operator is the documentation for OpenShift. So yeah, if you are using Ansible Lightspeed, the technical details will be different. Maybe you will have a UI there. If you are using RHEL Lightspeed, you will not have a UI. You will need to run those commands via terminal, for example. So yeah, the goal is the same. We want users to be able to work more efficiently on those platforms. The difference will be the platform where that product is installed and the documentation that it includes.
Okay, great to know. And I'll just kind of share, if you go to redhat.com/lightspeed, you can learn more about each of the different ones. Of course, we've been talking about the OpenShift one today. And then a quick question before we close off with how to get started and next resources. Fame asked in the chat, could you elaborate on VPA versus HPA? I'm trying to remember when we were talking about that.
I'm not sure. Is that something that we have mentioned here?
I'm not sure. I'm used to, there's so many acronyms these days. I'm used to HPA being like horizontal.
Oh, yeah, maybe he's asking about horizontal pod autoscalers. So yeah, that's something we show. So yeah, the way horizontal pod autoscalers work is basically like an automation that will allow you to escalate deployments, etc. I don't have all the knowledge about the other resource that you asked for, but that will be a good question for OpenShift Lightspeed. If we have an environment, we could ask OpenShift Lightspeed the difference between both.
Hey, there we go. We see it in action. Well, yeah. Awesome. So let's come back over to the interactive experiences page. And what are some further resources that someone could check out? So they can definitely, if they go over to, let's go to AI, they can go to, I guess, the OpenShift. OpenShift Lightspeed. Maybe it's on here. There we go.
No, yes, should be there. Yeah, exactly.
So they can run through what you did today, and then what would be some good resources for someone to continue on if they're wanting to try this out?
Okay, so the easier way to test OpenShift Lightspeed, if you have an OpenShift cluster, is installing the operator, and you can start playing with it as long as you have an OpenShift 4.16 cluster onwards and a model that you can connect OpenShift Lightspeed to. If not, I think OpenShift Lightspeed is also available on the developer sandbox. You will have like a 30 days account there where you can play with OpenShift Lightspeed there. And of course, I will encourage you to check the documentation. There are a lot of different features that are included in OpenShift Lightspeed that we couldn't cover today. So yeah, just find information, and if you have an environment you can test it, that will be awesome.
Awesome. Well, sweet. There's some good resources, the developer sandbox, and then also the trial. Just install the operator for Lightspeed and you're good to go. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I do appreciate you joining Diego and Rohan in the studio for making another fun episode possible. We'll be back with you in about 2 weeks for our next episode. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the Red Hat channel and you leave a like. Let's give a big thank you to our good friend Diego for showing us Lightspeed. We really appreciate you, man. Anything else you want to say before we close off?
No, I just wanted to thank you for having me here today. It was a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed the show.
I couldn't do it without you, man. All right. Well, cheers. Be sure to like the video so you can come back to it if you want to recheck it out. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you guys so much and have a great day. Cheers.